Howdy everybody. I pray this video finds you blessed. My husband and I are in the middle of building a barn to replace a smaller shed we had in the yard to put all of my wood, my hoarded wood, and all the bulb lengths that I'm cutting and trying to get a little bit of organization in the yard cleaned up. So we have most of all of the wood that I did have in that stored shed out in the yard and kind of covered up as best as we can. Not all of it is completely dry anyway, and this particular piece is no exception. It was definitely still wet. It's a piece of spalted oak that was cut down probably at the beginning of this year, maybe last year, so obviously it's still really, really wet. But I figured, well, even if it moves, I turned oak so much that I kind of anticipate movement and things like that. I was really focusing on the fact that this piece had a lot of bug holes, and I knew that it would be a good candidate for resin-filled bug holes. And those are always neat. It's really neat to see what nature is doing to a piece of wood, and you can kind of accentuate that with colored resin, and it's really cool to kind of just see what you're going to get out of it. This spalted oak was very stinky. It was just really bad. It was so bad that even after I cleaned it all up, my husband came into the shop and was asking me, "What the heck is that smell?" It was really bad, but a lot of it has to do with one, oak kind of has a vinegary, weird smell as it is, and then it's spalted, so it's kind of a rotted vinegar smell. It's hard to explain, but it's gross smelling. I've turned it so much I figured I would kind of be used to it by now, but it's still one of those smells that kind of like oof, take you back a little. But anyways, with that being said, make sure you're wearing a mask turning period, but especially when you're turning spalted woods. That fungus in there is can get into your lungs and it's not good. So just to warn you. Also, spalted woods do not make for good food safe items. So that's why I chose to use this piece and do resin and everything else in it, because it's not going to be advertised or sold or given as a food safe product. So here I'm just taking my Dremel, and I just have like a regular old spur diamond, I guess, bit on it. Anything that will knock out that bug, I call it bug poop dust. And this particular bug poop dust does not come out with an air hose. It is stuck in there. It's almost like it's held in with wood glue. It's tough. Some of it kind of breaks apart and chips out, kind of like dried clay, but some of it's really stuck in there, and most of the time I have to drill it. So that's why I choose to drill it instead of use an air hose. So I'm mixing the Harbor Freight 5-minute epoxy. Any 5-minute epoxy should do. It was really hot and muggy that day, so I mixed a little extra because I wanted to fill as many holes as I possibly could in one shot. And I do that by continually working it, and when it's really hot and muggy, it tends to set up a little quicker. So I'm able to just keep moving it around until it starts to set, and then I don't have to worry about it kind of leaking out of the holes. When it's colder outside, it takes forever for this stuff to set, and you can only do one small hole at a time. I wasn't able to get to scraping the outside of this and finishing it right away. I had to wait a few days. So that being said, it dried a little and developed some hairline cracks, which is fine because it just adds to that element of, you know, adding some extra color. So I'm using the Star Bond Black to fill in those hairline cracks to match the spalting in the piece. And then I just use the accelerator is what I'm spraying on there to get that stuff to set pretty quickly so I can get right back to turning. It's really convenient. And I did that all over the piece. Any spot or any extra hole that I may have missed, I just went ahead and filled with the black because it matched the spalting and worked perfectly for that piece. So that black Star Bond glue is kind of genius because if you have a spalted piece and you need to fill, it just blends right on in. So it's so convenient. Being this piece was still wet, I decided that being the pith was still in it, I'm just taking down the rim past that pith, and there's one major crack on one side that I'm trying to get out so that way it won't encourage more cracking. And it ended up not cracking any further, or even warping for that matter any further. It wasn't. I never metered it, but it really wasn't. I didn't start feeling the shavings being wet until I started getting to about this point, where I started getting into the very center. So, of course, that's still gonna change how the wood's gonna move and react. But it wasn't as bad as a lot of pieces that I have turned. My camera battery went dead when I went to go turn this around and scrape. I just used my bowl scraper to scrape the epoxy that I had just applied off. I didn't take much more of the wood away and just filled the remaining cracks and little holes with the black Star Bond CA glue. I'm just running through and sanding it to 320. I think I stopped. Total Boat sent me this new product called Lust, and it's a high gloss marine varnish. Now on the directions it tells you to stop somewhere at 2 something, and of course I didn't read that until after I sanded. And it also says for your first coat to dilute it to make it more like a sanding sealer, so that way it'll soak into the wood better and give you a better finish. Well, I didn't have the recommended product to thin it down, so I just put it on full strength, and then the very next day I went in and cut it back. I sanded with 220 grit and put one more coat. Now, the suggested is you can put up to 5 coats in a day, which is about 1 per hour. You want to do your second coat while it's tack free, is what the instructions say, and you can put up to 5 coats. Now at first, when I first seen the product, I was like, ooh, I'm going to put a ton of coats on this. I'm going to do like 5 total coats, maybe even 6, and we'll see what happens. But after the second coat and realizing how glossy and how perfect it was, at least in my eyes, I was like, I didn't want to take it any further. I felt that the texture of the wood was still visible, and I don't know how to explain it. It's like you can also feel it too. So this is after just the second coat, and I was happy with that. It was perfect enough. I didn't want to do a glass shine with it. After seeing what the second coat did. So I just took the abrasive paste, the Satilla's abrasive paste, and knocked back a little bit of the kind of the fuzziness that you get with certain varnishes and lacquers. And then I went over it with my DIY polish paste just to give a nice wax coat on there. And it turned out beautiful. It turned out better than I thought it was. I thought I was going to have to put several more coats, and that's just after 2. So check out the Total Boats website. It's in the link description below. There's also a coupon code, so don't forget to use that for your purchase. I was really happy with this Lust varnish. It's really cool, and I can't wait to use it for other projects. Also be aware that it is have an amber kind of color to it. So if you have lighter woods that you don't want to have that ambery finish, then it's probably best to try to find another product. But anyways, this one worked perfect for this piece because the oak was already kind of in that color range. So when I have a piece that's too big for my cold gels, I just use a waste block, and I hot glued a piece of foam pad that I got from the Dollar Tree to it. Now for the bottom, I just went through the same process I did for the inside and outside of the bowl. I didn't video the second coat of the Lust on the bottom because it was raining and really nasty when I was trying to finish this up and didn't have time to go out and video it. But the first coat I allowed to soak in really good, and the second coat just the same as the outside. Went over it with my abrasive paste and some wax, and done. It's a beautiful finish, and I really like that stuff. I'm hoping to use a lot more of it in the future. But anyways, I pray you all are blessed and well, and thank you so much for watching. Take care, and God bless.